Hebrew Lashon HaKodesh, where nothing is a coincidence. You know, when the same letters spell two different words, in the Hebrew language, they're always connected. I'd like to show you one example, which has very deep implications. Consider the letters Ayin, Vav, and Resh. Ayin, Vav, and Resh can spell two different words. They can spell the word or, which means skin, hide, or leather, and they also spell, when they have different vowels, the word iver. The word iver means blind. These two words must have a connection. But what's the connection between skin and blind? I'd like to borrow a bit from pop culture to try to answer the question. Now here's a little test. Tell me, what's the first thing that comes into your mind when I say each of the following? The best part of waking up. If you said Folgers in your cup, you are in good company. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup, the company will have us say. Man's best friend is a dog. Indeed, many Americans have reported that if they were witnessing a human being drowning in a river and their own dog drowning in the river, and they didn't know the human being, they'd save their own dog. And I ask, does that really make sense? Is the best part of waking up really Folgers in your cup? Hey, I love coffee at least as much as the next person. I've done many a late night, but it's not the best part of waking up. You know, some people go to sleep and they don't wake up. The best part of waking up is being alive and waking up. Man's best friend. Yes, I know that a lot of us are very attached to Rover, but does that mean that it's truly man's best friend? By the way, in Hebrew, the word for dog is kelev, and kelev is made of the same characters as kelev, like a heart, meaning that there is a connection between the dog and the heart. But man's best friend? Do you know, so many of these subtle messages are dripped and infused into our minds without us even thinking about it. Consider the following. Some of you might live in large cities and have tall buildings in your area. It used to be that when you walked into a tall building, you had the uncomfortable elevator moment. Yes, there was some elevator music in the background. You'd cough uncomfortably, perhaps look at your watch, glance across at the people who look semi-familiar, but you don't really know who they are, and finally, the doors would open. Relief. My friends, those days are over. What do you have in elevators in many tall buildings? Flat screen monitors. They've got everything. News, stock quotes, trivia, questions of the day. And what else? Advertising. Now here's the fun part. The company that does this throughout the nation, one of the companies, says the following in their own marketing materials. They're called Captivate Network, because you're a captive audience, and they say, our national network delivers more than 54.5 million monthly impressions to more than 2.5 million educated, motivated professionals in North America's largest markets. Because we deliver your message to a captive audience, right, they're in an elevator, in a focused, distraction-free environment, well, what else are they going to do? We have an average ad recall rate that exceeds that of most other media. We're memorable and measurable and consistently generate strong, tangible results on behalf of our clients. Which means you pay us, we will cut and paste ideas into wealthy people's minds. What about other marketing tricks? Remember Joe Camel? Is he still legal? A cartoon character smoking a cigarette. And of course the companies would come along and say, well, we weren't targeting kids. We know what those signs really should have said. But my friends, one of the most amusing examples is the story of Taster's Choice. You see, you'll notice that next to the jar of Taster's Choice, there's a gentleman. His name is Russell Christoph, and he looks an awful lot like the individual on the jar. Indeed, he is. But he didn't realize this until he walked into a local grocery. Someone noticed the resemblance and said, "Excuse me, sir, aren't you the man in the Taster's Choice jar?" And he said, by golly, it is me. And he discovered and he thought, and he said, how could that have possibly happened? And then he remembered. You see, now he's a kindergarten teacher in San Francisco. But he used to be a fashion model. And Mr. Kristoff recalled in 1985 a photo shoot that he did for Nestle Canada. And he said, they told him that if we ever use your image, we'll pay you. We'll call you. Well, he never heard back from them, and they ended up using his image on coffee throughout the world. The United States, Canada, Europe, Korea, Israel. What would you do if you were Mr. Kristoff? Of course, he sued and got a $15.5 million judgment, which is currently on appeal in the Supreme Court of California. But the best part of the story is when they asked Mr. Kristoff, well, how come you didn't notice this beforehand? Didn't you realize that your face was plastered on coffee jars throughout the world? He answered, I don't drink Taster's Choice. I don't drink freeze-dried coffee. I only drink coffee straight from the bean. That's right. The person whose image that the Nestle company uses to entice you to drink coffee isn't someone who drinks it himself. It's all a farce. It's the external trappings, the message that they want to broadcast, but it isn't the real thing. With this background, I'd like to return to our question. We asked, what is the connection between the word or, which means skin, and the word iver, which means blind? I'd like to read from a source in the Kabbalists that explains as follows. It discusses Adam and says Adam is called iver, blind, for he is trapped in the garments of or, skin, the skin of the serpent, for on this the Torah said, and God made for man and his wife garments of or. Now, if you understood that, you're either really quick or you're a Kabbalist. What does that mean? Man was trapped. He's called iver, blind. He's trapped in garments of or, skin, which has something to do with the skin of the serpent, and clothes that God made for man and his wife? Well, this obviously has something to do with the original sin. So let's take a look at it for a moment. What was that sin? What was that mistake? If you read the verse, it says, and the woman saw that the tree was good to eat. She saw it. And it was pleasurable to the eyes. It looked good. And desirable to the intellect. The fruit was tempting. It beckoned. It said, please, eat. By the way, that fruit was not an apple, according to Jewish tradition. And she went and took the external trappings, which completely convinced her. And she ingested that fruit. And of course, according to Jewish tradition, what it really brought was nothing but death. But the message is revealing. Everything starts with or. Or is externality. Or is our outermost extreme, our skin. But if I only look at the outer shell, that blinds. Eve looked at the outer appearance of the fruit, and it blinded. And then she was stuck. It is me'aver. It makes us iver, blind. And that's what it means when it says that man was in cloaks of or. Now, after the sin, we're blinded by everything external. We're so affected by all the media messages. And yes, some advertising might connect the right person with the right product. But it's not like that in every case. What's this reference to the skin of the serpent? We know something about the snake. If you look at the snake, its skin looks very real. It's vivid. But the snake is known to shed its skin. And when it does, we see that all that was external, all the or, is really only iver. It's blinding because it's not the real thing. If you could take it off, then that's not the thing the way it truly is. Of course, there's another word that sounds like that. It's the word or with an aleph, light. Because once a person sees through the farce, he sees that the or, skin, is just external and it's iver, it blinds, then he has the means, or she has the means, to see the or, light.